Hi guys, thanks for joining me today. I'm Marilyn, and if you're new here, thanks so much for joining me on Making with Marilyn. If you're not new, thanks for coming back. Now I'm very excited about today's project because it's a project I've never done. I've done plenty of sublimation projects, but this will be the first time that I'm going to use some sublimation nightlights, and I'm going to make a couple of projects for my two great nieces. These are PYD brand sublimation nightlights. In addition to those, I'm going to use my go-to sublimation paper. That's HTV Ront sublimation paper. I have a piece of printer paper. That's just going to be to protect the bed of my heat press. I have some heat-resistant tape, and I have some scissors. In addition to these things, I'm going to use my computer to make my design or to actually put my design together because I'm going to bring in just a simple background design from Creative Fabrica, and I'm going to add an initial to it. Now, if this sounds like something you'd like to do, sit back, relax, and let's get started. Let's go ahead and take a closer look at what we're going to be working with today. You have the basic nightlight and some parts in there, and then here's the sublimation blank. Inside this bag, we have the nightlight mechanism itself, we have some screws, and then we have the cap or the lid that goes over the top of our sublimation blank. Now in looking at this, there's definitely a bottom to this and a top to this. So when we put our sublimation blank in, well, it looks like there's a bottom and top to it too. There's these little nubs right here, and let's look at this. Part of this here is like a frame. So on three sides, you have what I would call little walls to the frame, but on three sides you have a frame. On this bottom part, it's open. Hopefully you can see that. And then on the sublimation blank itself, we have the white side. That's what we're going to sublimate on. And then we have the clear side. It's a little more glossy. Also, in looking at this, there are some little nubs right here. Let me see if you can see those. See right here and right here. Little nubs. And in looking at this, it looks like those go to the bottom. So it's going to be really important for me when I sublimate on this that I make sure that the bottom of the picture goes where these nubs are. If you put it on upside down, it is not going to fit in the frame. So if you do these, make sure the bottom of your picture is down where the nubs are. All right, let's look at the instructions. It shows the dimensions of the overall nightlight, and then it shows the dimensions of the sublimation blank. And it shows that to be 2.09 inches square. It says to be sure and tear off the protective film on both sides before printing, and no need to mirror the print designs. So good to know. You have protective film on both sides that you need to remove, and you're not going to mirror your design. Now, I've done a few projects where you don't mirror your design, and those projects are when you are sublimating on the bottom of something. So I did a cutting board, and your sublimation paper goes on the bottom of it. When sublimation paper goes on the bottom, even though you might flip it over and heat it from the top, when the sublimation paper goes under your sublimation blank, you are not going to mirror your design. Let me get this protective coating off, and then I'll see if I can show you why. Now it said this was on both sides, so let me go ahead and remove this side too. With that coating removed, it's easier to see that this is the sublimation side with the white coating, and this is the more glossy clear side. So to show you what I'm talking about and why you don't mirror it, this is the sublimation side. If it is facing down over this picture, and this picture is not mirrored, so your sublimation side is down, You can probably see that that is facing the right direction. So if somebody tells you you always mirror your images when you're doing sublimation, you typically do, but there's a few exceptions, and this is one. All right, let's look at this page. It's showing you can use an auto press or a regular press. And if you use a regular press, it says use 356 degrees Fahrenheit. And that's actually the instructions it gives you for the auto press too. Okay, then it shows how to put it together and secure with screws. So I'm going to need a little bitty screwdriver. Okay, then it shows us what it's going to look like. So while my print is printing out, I'll go ahead and get that small screwdriver. I'm not going to take much time here, but I wanted to show you my designs. I made this in Silhouette Studio Business Edition. I use the Business Edition because it's the only one that you can save your projects as SVGs. Since I typically don't cut with a silhouette, that's important to me. If you're interested in the background that I used, it is right here. It's this actual paper, but you get it with this entire bundle. So I'll put a link to that just in case you're interested. Then also, in case you're interested in the font, let me click on the letter A over here. Now you can see the name of the font that I used, and I think that's probably pronounced Bambo. And remember, the instructions said that the sublimation blank was 2.09, so I went ahead and I made my design 2.09. We'll see if that works out well. All right, let's go ahead and print it. Here's my printed design, and just like sublimation, it looks a little muted. It's going to be brighter than that when we actually apply the heat. Now I let this dry for a few minutes. You want to let your sublimation prints dry thoroughly. If you don't feel like you have a few minutes to wait, you can heat up a heat press, and then while it's hot, you can just slide this under it, let it sit there for about 10 seconds, and pull it back out. Now I'm going to cut these down, but I'm going to leave a lot of paper around them because I'm going to tape my tape to the paper and my sublimation blanks. Now one thing is, when you are sublimating on acrylic, there's some special considerations. If you get this too hot or leave it under the heat too long, it's going to become very soft and pliable. And so when I sublimate acrylic, I let it cool down all the way, or at least close to all the way, before I remove my designs. I'll show you that when we get there. So this is the sublimation side. It's the opaque white. And then this is the clear side that it's going to show up through. So I'm going to put my sublimation side down against my paper. And you can see through that nice and easily. That makes it nice to center it. And remember I said that the instructions said 2.09 square? So in them telling you 2.09, that gives you a little bit of extra outside of it so you don't accidentally have some white on your blank. If you have anything important on the outside of your 2.09 sized design, then you're going to want to size it a little bit smaller. For me, I'm okay with it with this design. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and try to center this. Looks like I need to come down and over just a little bit to the right. And I think that'll be good enough. Now the other thing in working with acrylic, if you put tape on the acrylic and then you have that high heat, the tape will often leave a little indentation in your acrylic. And so I want this to barely touch my acrylic. I don't want to have it on top of it where you're going to see that indentation. So I'm going to barely have it over here. And then I'll have a little bit over on this other side. That one's ready. Let me go ahead and get this one ready. Now, when I press these, I'm going to press them one by one. because I don't have experience with these blanks. And I don't want to put both of them under my heat press, find out that something isn't quite right, and ruin both blanks. So I'm going to do the R first, then I'll do the P. I can always adjust if I find that I need more time, a little higher heat, anything like that. Because I did see in the instructions where it gave you recommended settings, but let me see what else it said. It also says that the printing time depends on the color and the size of the design. And when they use the word printing, they're actually talking about the pressing time. And it says, please increase or decrease as appropriate, and if you have problems, contact them. I'm using this really small press today just because I wanted it to be here on the table so that you could see every step along the way. I went ahead and I preheated this to 360 degrees. I'm going to press these for 60 seconds, but I'm going to do 30 seconds. Then I'm going to rotate my design and I'll do 30 more, just in case there's any spots in this heat press that are a little cool. I want to move this around a little bit, but my total heating time is going to be 60 seconds. The instructions said 356 for the temperature. I did go ahead and put it on 360. While that's heating up, I'm going to go ahead and cut down a couple of pieces of printer paper. I always use something to protect the heat pad on my heat press, because sublimation can really cause problems with heat press pads. I've ruined a couple in my day, and so I just always like to use some extra paper to protect the pad of my heat press. So I'm going to put 2 pieces of paper below and 2 pieces of paper above. Now, even though the design is underneath the sublimation blank, it is up against the sublimation coating, and we're going to flip this over to press it. So I have my protective paper below it. I have my protective paper above it. One nice thing I like about this heat press is you can just take these pads out and you can arrange your items here. I want this to be pretty much in the center. I feel like the center gets the best even pressure. If you have something thick like this off to the side, then your heat press platen can kind of angle. So I want to try to have this in the middle. Remember, I have this set for 30 seconds. I'll press it for 30 seconds, and then I'll actually just pull these pads out and rotate them, and then I'll do 30 more seconds. Now remember, I said I'm going to let this cool down all the way, because if I lift it and I try to pull on that tape, I could very easily bend the acrylic. If this acrylic is like other acrylic I've worked with, it is super pliable when it's hot. So I'm going to let this cool down. All right, I took maybe a 3 or 4 minute break. Let me see how hot this feels. It is still pretty hot. Now, having it on this pressing mat is going to hold that heat in. Now that it's probably not so hot that it's going to bend, let me go ahead and take it off of it. And I'm just going to set it on my table for maybe another 45 seconds or so. It is hot, but it's not super hot. Also, if you have a ceramic or a porcelain tile, those are also good things as long as there's no texture to them. Those are nice things to flip over, lay on your acrylic blanks, and help cool this off. If this is still super pliable when you do that, you can put the texture of the tile into your acrylic. I have done that too. And so just be a little patient when you're working with sublimation on acrylic. All right, let's take a peek at this. Ooh, that looks pretty. That looks very pretty. Now, I did use white in my design, and you know there's no white ink. So for white to show in a sublimation design, your background or your blank is going to have to be white. With this having that white background, it worked out. Now when I take this white paper away from it, it's not going to be quite so bright white, but it'll still look good. See how I put an offset around the R, and then I put a tiny offset around the white offset. And I think that shows it off nicely. All right, so I'm happy with that. I'm happy with the press time. I'm happy with the temperature. Let's go ahead and do the second one. Once again, I'm going to heat this at 360 for 30 seconds, rotate it, and 30 more seconds. Okay, I'm done with this. Let me go ahead and shut that off, move it out of the way. While I'm working with the R, I'll just let this cool off. Here, okay, it's all the way cooled off now, so I don't have to worry about bending it. And the back looks good. The front looks good. Let me see if I can see any indentation in the acrylic from my tape, and I really don't. I have before. I really have. So I still would not put my tape very far in on this R, or very far in on any design. But there's what we have so far. Very cute. Okay, so fortunately I did press it with the bottom of the R down where these nubs are. Here's the bottom of the actual nightlight and the opening in the frame. That's where those nubs go. It just falls right down in there. But it does have to be the right direction or it's not going to fit in there. Now this one has 3 frame sides as well. So this side has a frame, this has a frame, this has a frame, and this is open. So I think that probably needs to go at the bottom also. And that fits together very nicely like that. Now it's just time to put those tiny little screws in. I found a little Phillips head screwdriver that I think is going to work. These are really, really tiny. So let's just drop that into place and tighten it down. Okay, something is a little magnetized. I don't know if it's my screwdriver or the screws. So when I lifted it up, the screw came out with it. Now, just like any screws, you don't want to over tighten these and strip something out or crack your plastic. They don't need to be on super, super tight. So far, it's coming together just great. Now, I'm over here hoping that I actually printed the P the right direction because I don't remember paying attention to those nubs. Okay, I must have. I did print it the right direction, but I was really concerned for a minute because I did not remember paying attention to that on this one. Okay, there's a little bit of the sublimation ink on the tape. That's fine. The P looks really good. I'm very happy with this project so far. So just like the last one, the part without the little wall to enclose this is right here. So that's going to go at the bottom where there's no frame down here either. Okay, that's cool enough. Let's drop that in and set this in the right direction. Flip it over and let's get this done. Very, very cute. I'm going to turn off the lights. We're going to check this out. Now I wish I could get rid of all the light in here, but with that window I can't. So I went ahead and I moved this all the way to off or very dim. It looks like it's all the way off. So I'm going to go ahead and start moving the dimmer switch up. There it is, maybe a third of the way over. Here it is, maybe halfway over. And there it is, all the way on. That is really cute. Now I am noticing that the camera is really grabbing onto that bright part. And I can see that it really looks better in person than it does on the camera. But it is brighter down here. That is the way it is, so the light must be down there. But the camera is really picking up on that light, and it doesn't look as good on the camera as it does in person. I think I like it about halfway like that. Super cute. Piper and Remy are going to love these. Here's the final projects, and I think they turned out very nice. Now it's time to make one for me. Thanks again for joining me. I appreciate your time. If you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, leave them in the comment section below, and I hope to see you in the next video.